Hi, this is Jeff Podlasek with Toad DB2 Development. Toad for DB2 has many features that allow you to view the health of your database objects and maintain those objects. In this video, I'll demonstrate several of those features for DB2 on Linux, Unix, and Windows. As a DBA or developer, you know it is important that data for your partition tables be equally distributed across all partitions in order to gain the DB2 benefits of parallelism during query execution. With Toad, you can interrogate your tables and easily identify tables that do not have data distributed equally across their parts. And then you can take corrective actions to adjust the distribution. I have Toad up and running. I'm connected to a DB2 LUW database, and I've selected one table, a partition table, and I'm going to right-click and say Space Management, Analyze Table Partitions. And this opens up the dialog that shows you the data distribution across your partitions of the data in that table. And this dialog allows you to do what-if situations. So for example, if you wanted to get your data equally distributed, you could say, what if I change my first partition ending value to say end at the key of 600, and then partition 2 begin at 601. And you can say, then click on refresh graph, and then Toad will show you what the distribution would be if those indeed were the limit keys. So it's not equally distributed now, so I'm going to say, well, what happens if my first partition ends at key 750, and my second partition begins at key 751, and then click refresh graph. And you can see that my data distribution via this graph down here below is pretty equal. And so if you're happy with that distribution, you can click the Show Script button, and it will generate, in essence, an extended alter that saves off the data, drops and recreates the table with the new ending key limits. So something very easily done with Toad for DB2. Also, another thing that's important in DB2 is, DB2 has greatly improved their compression features in the last several years. However, there still are some customers and applications that have not leveraged those enhancements. With Toad, you can easily identify the tables that can benefit from using DB2 compression, and you can view the savings that compression would give you, and you can also view savings that you're already getting with your already compressed tables. So on this tab here, I've selected several tables, and I'm going to right-click and select Space Management Compression Analysis. And this brings up the compression document, of which the first table is highlighted. And when you select a table, the graph up on top reflects the table that you've selected and below. And so this first table is not compressed. And based on the information we obtained from DB2, you can see that if it was compressed, you would have a big savings if it was adaptive compression, and a little bit less of a savings if it was static. And you could compare these tables side by side, if you will, by using the Ctrl or Shift key when you're selecting the tables below. If you want to alter these tables, you could just basically do that via right-click, or if you wanted to perform some utilities, very easily to invoke the utilities menus with these objects. If you only wanted to show uncompressed objects, you could select that right there. So Toad gives you a very visual representation of the savings you could gain, or you are already gaining, by having your tables compressed. And another thing that DB2 has added recently on DB2 LUW is the concept of storage groups. Now, storage groups have been around for DB2 ZOS for decades, but now on DB2 LUW, storage groups make it easier for you to manage your space allocations. And Toad has a storage group analysis feature, and I'll demonstrate that for you right now. So I've got a couple storage groups selected. I'm going to right-click and say Space Management, Storage Group Analysis. And this brings up the storage group usage document. So this displays the information for your storage group. And again, the first storage group is selected. And you can see the amount of file system, total size allocated, total size used, free space. So as a DBA or a developer, you might be very curious to identify the storage groups that have a lot of space available. So as you're creating your objects, your table spaces, you know which storage groups to associate those with. And you could select multiple using the Control key or the Shift key on the bottom, and it gives you a very visual representation or comparison of how much space is available for which storage group.